Alright everyone, listen up. First of all, since this is my first video of 2018, Happy New Year. A bit late, I know, but hey, better late than never. Now, I'm not going to give you some bullshit excuses to why I haven't been doing any videos for the past month. I'm just going to tell you it was a combination of factors, but the biggest one was laziness. I just couldn't get myself to making any videos. But we are past that now, and I'd like to welcome you back to Focused Survival. I want you to keep in mind that once the next patch arrives, some of the gameplay elements will change and most of these tips and tricks will not be valid anymore. If that's the case, I'm just going to do videos updating the series. I don't think I will redo the series until the game hits beta at least. Just, continuation. Now, let us finally get into the video. So far, throughout the series, I made you build a base, hunt, scavenge, craft tools, and gather materials. Now that we are in day 6, we have to prepare for the incoming feral horde that's about to attack us tomorrow night. And what better way to prepare for it than reinforcing our home? In other words, the focus of day 6 is the fortification of your base. Before we talk about it, I'll have to mention that if you've taken shelter in an abandoned building and you demolished its staircase like I taught you many times throughout this series, you're pretty much safe from the ferals. You can probably put a few wooden spikes around the door and what used to be the stairs to kill a few zombies, but you can just hide in an upper floor and deal with the undead in the morning when they stop running. If this is your situation, you can do whatever you want. You can do more scavenging or harvesting, or you can visit a trader for some transactions. You are free to pick and choose. But if you've gone the route of building a wooden box to call home, like I did, then it's time to put some elbow grease into it. If you followed this guide to the letter and you spent the entire previous day and night gathering resources, you should have more than enough materials to upgrade this shack to have it withstand the relentless attack of the walking corpses. If you recall yesterday's video, you learned that simple wooden walls are weak against zombie attacks, so first of all we start with something simple, like reinforcing these walls. For that you are going to need wood, scrap iron, and a construction tool. Now let's talk about construction tools for a while. Just like the gathering tools I listed yesterday, construction tools could be classified into tiers as well. The most basic and easy to craft construction tool is, you guessed it, the stone axe. It's the slowest tool for wall reinforcement, taking about 4 hits to upgrade one single block. But you should have a forge by now, so you can use about 12 forged iron ingots to craft yourself a claw hammer. Surprisingly, this is a wonderful tool for reinforcing your walls, upgrading a wooden block in one single hit. Once you craft this one, you're pretty much set. If, during your travels, you come across either a fully assembled nail gun, or parts in the schematic to craft your own, then this is the ultimate construction tool. The nail gun can upgrade walls with extreme efficiency, and as a bonus it can also be used to kill zombies from afar via nail to the brain box, although that should never be its primary use. There's yet another construction, or rather deconstruction tool, the wrench, which is better at upgrading than the stone axe, but it's much slower than the claw hammer. As far as upgrading your base is concerned, you can ignore this one. The primary use of the wrench is the disassembly of mechanical bits and pieces, as I've already mentioned in one of the previous videos. I will talk in more detail about the wrench in one of the upcoming episodes. For now, let's stick with the main subject, as I would prefer to not draw out the video longer than necessary. Now that we learned about construction tools, let's get back to upgrading your base. As I've already said, you will use wood to reinforce your simple wooden wall, and, if you want to make it even sturdier, you'll need to reinforce it with some scrap iron. You can make scrap iron by, well, scrapping the iron fragments you gathered, but that method only yields about 75% of the iron you'd get by using another method. And that method is using your forge. Basically, you put the raw iron fragments into the forge, and then you smelt out the scrap iron. That yields you 100% of the iron content of the ore you put in. I believe about 500 units of scrap should be more than enough to reinforce a small shack. You don't need to reinforce the entire shack with iron. If you just upgrade the first 2 to 3 layers of the blocks, bottom to top, you'll be good. The way you fortify walls is simple. If you right click a block with a construction tool, you'll use resources in your inventory to upgrade it. If you have no fitting resources, you simply won't do anything. I should have taught you how to reinforce your walls in the first video, since that was the video where I made you build your shack. But better late than never. Anyway, reinforcing your walls, that is just the first step. Step 2, which is entirely optional, is to build a few firing ports like I did in this example here. I simply placed a hatch over the windows, placed a few wooden plates to support the hatch, and then I removed the window. In theory, you can open the hatch to shoot incoming zombies and close the hatch if you think they're going to hit back. This building element will come in handy when spitters start arriving with the hordes, but as I've said, you can skip this one. Unlike step 2, step 3 is not optional. You're going to have to build an upper level because when zombies attack, your first level will be compromised. On this upper level, you'll build a few chests to transfer the loot from downstairs, and you'll also place your bedroll to spawn here in case you die. The good news is you don't need to reinforce the second floor, just simple wooden walls will do. Once you start building this second floor, you'll need to leave yourself a door opening on this level because you'll need access to the next defense item you're going to build, the catwalk. Basically, your entire second floor will be surrounded by catwalks which serve two functions. First and foremost, you're able to move freely and safely around your shack to defend it from above, and their second function is to prevent spider zombies from climbing your walls. For step 4, you should prepare in advance. You know that you don't have to stand still to craft items, so before you start building an upper floor or reinforcing the walls, put some defensive items in the crafting queue so they'll be done crafting by the time you're done with those previous steps. We'll talk about these defensive items right now. What you want to craft are items that will make the job of defending yourself much easier. These items are the wooden spikes, barbed wire fences, and later on you'll also be able to use the log spikes. These are just primitive defensive items. In a later video we'll also talk about electric fences and auto turrets, but for now let's talk about these. First, the wooden spikes. These are the most lethal of the basic traps, killing a zombie quite easily, but they do have a drawback. They themselves also break quite easily. You can repair some broken spikes, but without maintenance they'll simply wear out pretty fast. Then there's barbed wire fences, which perform another function entirely than the spikes. They deal a lot less damage, but once a zombie gets stuck into them, it won't easily get out. They basically slow the zombies down to a crawl, making them much easier to deal with, especially if they were running beforehand. You should put a combination of wooden spikes and barbed wire fences surrounding your shack to aid in your defense. I also said I'll talk about the log spikes. These simply deal damage to whoever sits on top of them, but if they're just made of simple wood, they'll break quite easily. Luckily, they can be reinforced with scrap iron and eventually even steel. Now, when it comes to defense against the first few feral hordes, I recommend you to steer clear of log spikes. They work wonderfully if you also dig a trench for them so that zombies will fall into the spike pit with no chance to get out. But I will talk about this method of defense in the 9th or 10th videos for this series. For now, let's just focus on what's important: how to survive the first feral horde. Alright, let's take a step back from the rant and do a quick recap. You reinforced the first few layers of your wall with some scrap iron, you built a second floor with a catwalk surrounding it, and you placed some basic traps. What next? If your short-term memory is good, you'll recall that 2 minutes ago I told you to leave a door opening on the second floor and afterwards build a catwalk. This is going to become our main entrance to the shack because the door on the bottom floor will be barricaded with some reinforced metal sidings, as you can see in the example right here. The reason we barricade this door is because, more than likely when the ferals attack the bottom floor, it's going to be compromised, as I've already mentioned. But how do we get to the second floor? Well, my dear friends, the answer is simple. We will build a stair. Start crafting some wood board stairs in your inventory and then place them from the catwalk, working on your way down. Once the staircase is complete, you're going to place one more stair in front of it, like this. Now, break the first 2 bits of the initial stair you built, and lo and behold, now you have a broken staircase which you can use and zombies cannot. If some of these things mentioned in this video don't make a lot of sense right now, don't worry. All the information will fall into place in the 7th day. But let us continue. Another entirely optional thing you can do if you want to further upgrade your base is to build pillars, like these, one on each side of the base. These pillars should be tall enough to extend the catwalk onto them, like you see here. The reason you'd want to do this is because you'll have an extended angle from which to shoot zombies attacking your walls. The pillars, just like the walls, should be reinforced with scrap iron to prevent them from being broken too easily. You should also place some spikes or barbed wire fences around the pillars just for a little bit of extra protection on them. Last but not least, you should put a torch on each side of your base so you'll have some light shed onto the attacking hordes. You cannot kill what you cannot see, so make sure you can see them clearly. You can build a torch from cloth, wood and animal fat, the last item you can get from your hunting trip in the 2nd day, or from zombie corpses you chopped up. If at any point you run out of materials to properly reinforce your base, quickly gather some and keep building. Don't get drawn into anything else while doing this. It's why we call this series Focused Survival and not chaotic attempt at trying to stay alive. If you can't get everything done today, don't worry, you can continue tomorrow. At this point in the game you should stay alert in case roaming hordes of zombies are marching towards your home. If they come during the day, deal with them quickly and make sure they don't damage the house or the defenses too much, or else you'll be caught with your pants down when the ferals arrive. The best course of action is to just draw them away from your house and dispatch them with a bow or a melee weapon. But sometimes these roamer hordes are replaced by zombie dog or direwolf packs. If this is the case, just stay near the base and use its defenses if you have to. And if the defenses degrade, fix them right up, have them ready for the real threat. Once the night comes, you can still continue to improve your home, gather materials or manage your inventory. Spending the night crafting things you'll need tomorrow is always a viable alternative. But if you do venture outside at night to gather more resources, stay close to your base and be prepared to head inside the second you hear footsteps. Now that we're done with this, let's run a checklist before we bring this video to an end. Hold tight, this is going to get repetitive and possibly quite boring, but it has to be done. Now, did you reinforce the walls? Did you build a 2nd floor? Did you build a catwalk? Did you craft and place defensive traps? Did you barricade the door on the 1st floor? Did you build a broken staircase to the catwalk? Did you build pillars to extend the catwalk? Do you have a melee weapon in good condition? And do you have enough arrows? If you answered yes to all of these questions, you, my friend, have a very high chance to survive the feral horde from tomorrow, as long as you don't do stupid mistakes. But if you don't have all of these things in order, don't worry, we start solving them tomorrow morning. For now it is time to say farewell. Thank you for watching, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Focused Survival, and we'll see each other in the next one. Goodbye.